Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Go ahead and take a really deep breath because today we're embarking on a massive journey through deep time. We're stepping way outside our normal everyday lives to take a truly cosmic perspective on the grand chaotic story of our planet. Seriously, what we're going to explore today is a truth about our history that completely flips the script on how we see ourselves in the universe. I am so pumped to share this with you because it just perfectly captures the sheer, violent reality of Earth's past. Let's get into it. All right, just take a quick look around you right now. You've got solid walls, cozy lighting overhead, and, air that you're effortlessly breathing. It all feels so incredibly normal and permanent, right? Well, what if I told you that this stability is basically just a temporary illusion? Like, if we somehow dropped you back onto the early Earth, you'd be dead in about 60 seconds. There'd be literally no air to breathe. Instead of solid ground, you'd be standing on a boiling ocean of molten rock, looking up at a sky that's glowing this terrifying furnace-like orange. So yeah, our peaceful little planet, it hides a brutal, violently chaotic past. You really have to wrap your head around the mind-bending scale of all this. Earth is roughly 4.5 billion years old. That's a number so huge, our brains basically short-circuit trying to picture it. So think of it like this. Imagine a massive cricket stadium, like one cade, packed to the brim. If that entire overflowing stadium is Earth's history, then all of human history, every city built, every book written, the whole shebang, is just a single kernel of popcorn sitting at the very top of the highest bleacher. For over 99% of its existence, this planet was running just fine without us. We are literally a tiny drop in a vast cosmic ocean. So, to map this out, we've put together a visual timeline to trace the 5 most critical extinction and biological reset events in our planet's history. We're anchoring this journey at 4.5 billion years ago with a literal ball of lava, moving to the Great Thaw 500 million years ago, the ultimate reset 252 million years ago, the famous asteroid impact 66 million years ago, and finally bringing it to 300,000 years ago. And you know what's wild? For the first 2 billion years of this timeline, invisible, microscopic slime completely ruled the Earth. No trees, no animals, just endless slime. And don't underestimate them. Those microbes held the crown longer than all the plants and dinosaurs combined. Moving into Chapter 1, Ages of Fire and Poison. It's crazy to think about, but the very mechanics that make our cozy lives possible were forged by violent cosmic accidents. Take our moon, for example. Early on, Earth didn't even have one. That is, until a Mars-sized planet named Theia slammed directly into us. Total apocalyptic collision. The massive debris field eventually clumped together to form the moon. But the absolutely crucial part? That impact violently knocked Earth off its axis, tilting it exactly 23 degrees. If that crash had happened even a tiny bit differently, we simply wouldn't be here. That exact 23-degree tilt is the literal only reason we have seasons today. But right after the fire came the poison. Remember that microscopic slime? Well, eventually they started doing something pretty weird, eating sunlight. It's a process we call photosynthesis. But there was a really dark twist. This process released a waste gas, which we now know as oxygen. Now for us, oxygen is life, but for almost everything living on Earth back then, it was a highly toxic, lethal poison. As this toxic oxygen flooded the atmosphere, it triggered our first major timeline event, a mass extinction called the Great Oxidation event. It even wiped out the planet's heat-trapping gases, freezing Earth into a giant lifeless ice ball. The very gas you're breathing right now was once an apocalyptic poison that nearly wiped out the very microbes that created it. On to Chapter 2, The Age of Monsters. So, when Earth finally thawed out around 500 million years ago, complex life exploded into the oceans and eventually crawled onto dry land. But let's fast forward to an era that was just deeply alien. I'm talking 260 million years ago. Earth spun much faster back then, meaning a single day was only 22 hours long. It was just a totally different rhythm of life on an unrecognizable planet. And the wildlife? Oh man, long before a single dinosaur ever existed, the land was terrorized by these absolute apex predators called gorgonopsids. Picture the largest of them, Inostrantia. It was a killing machine the size of a grizzly bear, but with saber teeth the size of human hands. The land was so incredibly hostile and dangerous that plant eaters literally had to hide out in the water just to survive these fully armed monsters. Next up, Chapter 3, The Great Dying. So this terrifying ecosystem was speeding towards the ultimate reset. Roughly 252 million years ago, deep in Siberia, the Earth literally cracked open. And we're not talking about a normal volcano here. This was a fissure about half the size of India, and it just endlessly vomited lava for millions of years. The sheer amount of carbon dioxide choked the sky and basically boiled the oceans like giant geysers. This insane heat and loss of oxygen triggered the Great Dying. It wiped out a staggering 90% of all life. 9 out of every 10 species, just completely erased. Earth was left as a broken, desolate wasteland. So how on earth did life bounce back from that? Well, through yet another bizarre anomaly. Out of nowhere, a continuous global megastorm started raining down on the scorched planet. And the crazy part, it didn't stop for 2 million years. Seriously? Let that sink in. 2 million years of non-stop rain. Scientists call this the Carnian pluvial event, and it completely transformed our dry, dead world into this massive, wet, swampy paradise. The aftermath of that superstorm basically changed the course of history forever. Before the rain, dinosaurs were just a tiny sliver of land animals, maybe around 5%. But after the clouds finally cleared, their population completely exploded to over 90%. That unbelievable megastorm literally handed the keys to the planet right over to the dinosaurs, setting them up to rule for the next 115 million years. Which brings us to Chapter 4, the ultimate plot twist. Okay, so dinosaurs were the undisputed masters of the world, right? But the cosmos had this massive, random curveball waiting in the dark. We all know the classic story. 66 million years ago, a 10-kilometer asteroid slams into Earth. Game over for the dinos. But I want you to really think about this. What if that giant rock hurtling through the massive void of space had been off by just a fraction of a degree? What if it had just missed? Because when it did hit, it kicked up so much dust that it blotted out the sun for months. The plants died off, and those giant, majestic dinosaurs literally starved in the freezing dark. But down in the dirt, hiding deep underground and shivering in the dark, were these tiny, hairy little mammals. They managed to survive simply because they could burrow deep and basically eat whatever garbage they found in the wreckage. And guess what? Those small, terrified little scavengers are our direct ancestors. If that asteroid had sailed right past Earth, dinosaurs would absolutely still rule today, and mammals would have just stayed small, hiding in the shadows forever. That devastating, world-ending rock was the single, solitary door that cracked open just enough to allow humanity to exist. Finally, Chapter 5, the accidental survivors. And that brings us to the incredibly brief final chapter of this deep time journey, us. When Homo sapiens, our specific branch of the family tree, showed up about 300,000 years ago, we actually weren't alone. There were at least 4 other distinct human species living on this planet right alongside us. They were every bit as real as you and me. But time, rapidly changing environments, and the sheer brutal nature of survival just ground them down until they were dust. Today, out of all those different human species, we are literally the only ones left standing. Which really drives home the entire point of this explainer today. We are simply the survivors of the survivors of the survivors. We really aren't the main characters of Earth's story. We are just the incredibly lucky result of a wildly chaotic string of cosmic accidents. Our whole existence is built on top of colliding planets, poisonous gases, global ice ages, unbearable heat, 2-million-year rainstorms, and a single random space rock that just happened to hit the exact right spot. We are complete newcomers to a planet that has literally spent billions of years trying to burn, freeze, and poison life out of existence. So here is the final provocative thought I want to leave you with today. The next time you step outside, take a deep breath of air and look up at the calm, quiet night sky. Will you remember the chaos? Will you remember that you and literally everything you know only exists because the dust of absolute destruction finally settled? I really hope this explainer has shifted your perspective just a bit today. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and whatever you do, never lose that sense of cosmic wonder. Thanks so much for joining me.